What I just saw, guys, on a recent Abby Phillips show made me want to start my own channel. Literally, this was the stupidest thing I've seen in the whole episode. Lydia Moynihan, who's well-known racist, had some really insane takes. And before we look at that, which we're about to watch right now, Trump friend Kevin O'Leary also made an appearance on the show, which made it even worse.
It's one thing for me to acknowledge something, and there's something else to sit here and act like there's nothing that needs to be corrected. This lovely gentleman sat right here and tried to erase it, literally sitting next to me, literally. So and even doing the comparison, saying, would you rather go to China or not go to China? Are you a veteran? So that means you never raised the pause means no. So that means he never raised his hand to say, I'm willing to die for this country. Let's stop talking about just the Dow. Not only was I willing to die for this country, both of my grandparents were.
Thank you for your service.
That's right. Thank me for my service. So how dare he sit here and ask me. So how dare he sit here and ask me would I rather be in China when I was willing to die for the country that is locking up the people that we're talking about. There are more black men enslaved than those who were enslaved in 1850 in the prison system right now in 1850 that did not actually get the due process that you guys are talking about, that actually had to take plea bargains because they could not afford adequate law attorneys, which is why I'm in law school, by the way, right now. Shout out to FAMU. So to sit here and ask me, what country do I live in? It's called America. You can't point nothing out.
I do. I want to say this. If you were on the Abby Phillips show Chinese version, you wouldn't be here tomorrow.
But I'm not the Chinese version. I'm here with the American version. The black. I know, and I'm saying it, and I'm saying it, and I'm enjoying it, and I fought for mine and yours. So thank me for my service.
All right, my friends, listen.
Thank me for my service. I'm not disparaging. I just want you to thank me.
We're going to bring this to a close. I mean, I do think it is worth acknowledging that you don't have to prefer China to say that I want to be able to, in this country, both live in the country and critique it at the same time.
These freedoms
sure.
And be able,
I know. I think that she's actually saying the same thing, that she's expressing her right to criticize, to acknowledge the past and how bad or how good it was. So I don't know that you guys are all that. I don't know that you guys are all that far.
But nobody despairs democracy. And I answered your question, and you still didn't deal with the issue at hand.
Hey, listen, I didn't serve.
One thing I notice about many MAGA supporters is how extremely loyal they are to their leader. They don't stop to think about whether what they're saying actually matches reality or not. Their main goal seems to be pleasing their boss, but often they get trapped in that mindset. And we just saw something like this happen with Lydia Moynihan. She seemed to think she was making a very smart point about ICE, but Lee McGowan, without even saying a single word, completely shook her argument. First, take a look at this clip.
Released last week, she said medical staff initially refused to see her after she began hemorrhaging profusely, soaking through 6 sanitary pads in an hour. Eventually, she was taken to a hospital. And last summer, a 32-year-old man died at the Florence Center after being detained at a facility for roughly 3 weeks. Now, that facility is being run by a company called Core Civic, and they have a statement saying, nothing matters more to Core Civic than the health and safety of the people in our care. He says the facilities routinely pass government inspections, and the reports of substandard care are simply not reflective of the hard work their people do. DHS simply says in a statement, it is a choice to be detained, and people can simply self-deport. But I just ask, are we still good with holding children, some as young as 2 months old, for indefinite amounts of time in any kind of facility that is basically a jail?
Look, I don't like hearing those stories. I want everyone to be safe and get the health care and what they need. I think it is a reminder, though, that we frankly don't have the resources to provide health care for the millions of illegal people who came in here. And on the other point of people sort of complaining about
you mean in
detention
the jails or
centers,
just in general?
Just in general. It's interesting. I mean, for years, the media ignored these stories about people who were complaining, whether it was in Texas on a border state or Springfield, Ohio, of immigrants who were flooding their towns and they didn't have resources at all.
But you're being asked
and
about children in a detention center,
that
not
was never covered.
Taking health care.
And now
that was covered.
It
was covered.
It was ridiculed. People who.
It was definitely covered.
People who were trying to erect the border
The
walls
question is, should we be keeping children in detention facilities without the proper health care? That's the question.
I would like. My understanding is children are getting health care there. I think they should get. I'm saddened to hear of that report. If that's true, most of the reporting I've seen on these detention centers are that people are getting education and health care. So I, of course.
Well, look, I mean, I think
most of the reporting I've seen on these detention centers are that people are getting education and health care. So I, of course...
Well, look, I mean, I think...
She's actually said, from what I read... We know you don't fact-check at the Post. You spin right-wing bullshit under the guise of news with a tabloid spin. The fact that CNN keeps platforming these lying assholes is embarrassing. A federal judge recently told ICE that they must give detainees proper medical care, enough food, and access to lawyers. This happened after people in detention said they were being neglected and treated badly. And after receiving criticism, she responded on Twitter by saying that migrants who dislike detention conditions can simply accept a free flight home. People in detention are often in the middle of legal proceedings. If they leave, they automatically lose their legal case. So calling it a choice is dishonest.
I think both things can be true at the same time. It is.
We're getting education. I
blame these parents, though, for putting their children in this position.
Hold on. Look, there are at least some cases. There's one case where a family had, during the Biden administration, had come through the CBP-1 app. They had been inspected. They had gone through the application. They were told they could come into the country, and now they are being detained with their young child in a detention facility. Now, you can disagree with the actions of the Biden administration, but what is the point of punishing children for their parents doing something that was the illegal process at the time and putting them in, again, regardless of how many nurses they have or books they have in these facilities, these are jails.
Abby, when you're dealing with millions of people, there's always going to be horrific stories like this. That's not going to stop. I think a bigger issue
but you
is
realize that
is there a middle ground
is an issue here, right?
Listen to this. I mean, I talked to a farmer from Iowa last week while I was in Florida, and he told me that if we threw out all of the people that work on his farms, we wouldn't eat anymore. And so what he's asking for is, say, wait a second, if this person came into the country, is supporting a family, never broke a law, is there some kind of middle ground to help him get his papers as a citizen, perhaps, while he works and feeds America? That was his question. I said,
it's a good question, but Trump promised mass deportation.
Remember, if you broke a law, if you actually are found in, I don't know, ICE or some other law enforcement entity, and you clearly came here illegally and you broke a law, I'm sorry.
All right, Kevin, a quick last word.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm not sure.
My last word is, you're all nuts. Like, that's just...
Oh, my God.
Thank you, Kevin.
Guys,
am I in on that? Okay.
Look, we got to keep it together here, okay?
We are.
Honestly, I mean, there's a way to talk about these things. If you don't have anything to say, just say that, and I won't come to you next time.
You don't have basic
next for us,
Kevin.
everyone, thank you for being here.
That was a stretch. It was
Next,
insane.
excuse me, stop, Kevin, stop.
A grown man throws a tantrum and then tries to bully the room into laughing. There's no real argument, just noise. Kevin O'Leary, a Canadian businessman, is treated as an authority on American politics largely because of his wealth. But what more can you expect? Even many people in his own country have grown tired of his takes. By the way, what do you guys think about this situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If I continue this series, we'll meet again, so make sure to press the bell icon.